We live. You live? Testing, testing. You there? Nisi. I don't hear you.
I'm here. I just had it on mute.
Okay. All right. Just remember
I'm
that you're gonna be muting yourself throughout throughout this whole thing. Heather, you there?
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Okay, fabulous. All right. And we have the phone call. All right. So the number should be up in front of us. I'm not going to wait for a lot of people because this is going to be recorded so we can replay it whenever you're ready. There is a phone number tonight, and we do have the chat enabled, so you should be able to either call in with your comments or questions, or you should be able to call or put your comments or questions in the chat. There are joining me tonight is Nahisi and Heather. Heather is an attorney in New York, has done many, many trials with me. She is my ace. We have freed a lot of people who would be spending the rest of their lives in prison. So I'm happy to have her with us tonight for her valuable input. Nahisi, you know, that's my ride or die. So he's been with me last time. He's going to be with me again tonight. I appreciate him. Is that rain? And it just started raining really, really hard. That's crazy. All right. So we got a lot to talk about tonight. We're going to try to get it in 1 hour. If we go over a little bit, just bear with us. We're going to start with North Carolina. I kind of want to do this in some sort of order because I might want to break up the video so that it's not so long so that we can send it out and people can watch the segments or the parts that are relative to the questions and concerns that they have. All right. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Ikie Al-Shabazz. I'm an attorney here in New York City. I am a former prosecutor, and I'm currently a criminal defense attorney. I am also a former professor of law. I taught legal writing at New York Law School for 5 years. Yeah, so that's that. Anyway, let's talk about Charlotte. I want to talk about Charlotte first because there's a lot of things going on legally that we need to discuss. Okay, so Charlotte, if you've been under a rock, then you might not have heard of Keith Scott, right? Keith Scott was a man who was he 40? Y'all can check me on the age. I'm not sure.
Yes, I believe he was 40.
40 years old. The police officers, from reports, were there to execute an arrest warrant on someone else. Let me say that again. Someone who was not Keith Scott. The police were there to execute a warrant for them. It's not raining. I don't know what's going on outside my window right now. It sounds like rain now. Doesn't sound like rain. In any event, okay. So the police were there to execute a warrant. Now, here are some facts that need to be very clear. Initially, the reports are that these police officers were not in uniform, right? These are not uniformed police officers, and they may not have been in a marked vehicle, meaning they weren't in a police car that's readily visible with, say, police on the side with the light on the top and all of that. They may have been in an undercover vehicle because the last thing you want to do when you come to arrest somebody is let them know you're coming to arrest them, right? So a lot of times arrest teams and things of that nature, they try to do it, a little surreptitiously. Okay, so now we have to consider if these police officers were not in uniform, whether or not Mr. Scott recognized them to be the police initially when they first engaged him. Okay. We have several videos. The first video was released by Mr. Scott's wife. It doesn't show the actual shooting. It shows the police officers yelling commands for him to drop the gun, drop the gun, drop the gun. And then he shot and you see him laid out. The next day after that, I believe this was Saturday, the officials, because it was nobody's responsibility, right? To release the video, decided under pressure from the media, social media, political figures. Hillary Clinton also tweeted that they should release the video. They released 2 videos. They didn't release all the videos that they have. And we don't even know if they released the videos that have the best visual or can give us the best version of what happened. But they released the two videos that they did release, and we have to talk about those. Okay. One of the things we have to consider is that this man, Mr. Scott, had what's called the TBI. You hear his wife on the video saying he has a TBI. He just took his medicine. A TBI is a traumatic brain injury, and if you've been following the case, you've heard from the lawyers who say he was in a motorcycle accident last year, towards the end of last year. He suffered a brain injury as a result of that, and he's taking medication. Now, that could mean, again, if you put all of these factors together, you've got unarmed police officers who might be engaging someone who doesn't know that they're cops, who might be in some sort of, might be disoriented or confused or not be able to understand what's going on because he might be on medication, or he might have smoked a blunt, right? Because they said they found marijuana, but I don't know if it was lit or if it was burning in public or if he was smoking it at the time or if they were able to smell it or whatever may have you. So maybe he was under the influence of marijuana, if that's even true, right? Because I look at all of the police statements with a very jaundiced eye because they have every motivation to lie. And, you know, and who's going to stop them? Who's going to stop them, huh? Right? Okay, so the police officers were saying that they didn't want to release the video. And now you have to understand that in North Carolina, the governor just signed a bill. Governor Pat McCrory just signed a bill that removes from the public arena police videos, right? So body cams and dash cams are no longer going to be public for public consumption, meaning that all you have to do if you want to get a copy of one of those videos is put in a public request, right? You can't do that anymore starting October 1st, 2016 in North Carolina. If you want a copy of a video that it involves a police shooting or anything like that, you have to get a court order. And the theory and the logic on that is that that makes it makes the people safer. I don't know. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me, especially if we're trying to get people to be more transparent, right? So this happened before October 1st, though, and they still didn't release the video. So you see what we're up against when there is no prohibition for them to release the video. Now they got a law they can hide behind and say we can't do it. We would like to. Watch the next shooting, they're gonna say we would like to release the video, but our hands are tied. We just can't do it, you know, because the law, and we are a nation of laws, and that bullshit. Yeah. All right. So now there is the video of the second video of the body cam video, where you see an ankle holster. You can see an ankle holster on his leg when he gets out of the car. And I don't know. From I looked at the video, I zoomed in, I screenshot it, I did all of these things, and it didn't look like there was a gun in his hand. But you know, again, I'm looking at it with a jaundiced eye. I know that, so I want to see more video. I don't know if the gun was planted. I can't tell if that was a glove that was dropped, or if it was a gun that was dropped, or if it was a gun that was moved, or there was a gun that was planted. Don't know. We can't see that. What we do know is that they did come out and say, oh, well, his fingerprints and DNA were on the gun. Now, let me just tell y'all something about fingerprints and DNA. It's not time stamped. So let's just say it was his gun. Wouldn't you expect his fingerprints and DNA to be on it if it's his gun? Right. So it's not to say that he had the gun in his hand at the time. That's not what fingerprints tell us. So be careful about how the media tells you things, because they'll say things like there was a gun found at the scene. So the whole fucking parking lot was a scene. That doesn't tell me if the gun was found in his car. It doesn't tell you that either. But what it suggests is that it was in his hand or under his body or something like that. So be careful about that, because the media has, you know, this is just fodder for them to keep us in a constant state of panic, fear, and anxiety. And so they have no desire to have any journalistic integrity and actually report, you know, the truth. No, they report versions of the truth. Now, there were some people. Nahisi, if we get a call, just let me know. And oh, you know what? Hold on. I gotta make sure. Do you see the chat, Nahisi? We enabled the chat. I don't hear nothing on YouTube. It's working? Okay, the chat is working, y'all. I don't hear nothing better. Okay. So then you have all of the people who are saying that he has an extensive criminal history. Keith Scott is a prior felon. He has a prior robbery conviction, a prior assault, and I'm thinking, okay, your point is what? What exactly is the point of that? Because it's not like the police are saying he was known to us because he has a record. We recognized him. We knew he was the type of dude to carry a concealed weapon, and we knew he was a felon, so we knew he wouldn't be lawfully in possession, even in an open carry state. That's not what happened, right? So you can't, Monday morning quarterback and say, oh shit, yeah, he was a felon. He was a dangerous guy. You didn't know that at the time, right? You didn't know that at the time. Now, so one of the things that we do in the law is to try and determine whether or not the actions of the police officer was reasonable, right? Reasonable. And reasonable is a subjective standard. It's a subjective standard because it's really about what's in the mind of the officer, right? You see the problem with that? Because none of us are mind readers. So how do we know what's in the mind of the officer? It's the reasonable person standard that we apply to a subjective standard, right? So hypothetically, what we would do in trying to determine and ascertain whether or not his actions were reasonable is to try to think about what he was thinking about, right? And to do that, we have to say, what would a reasonable person in his situation, in the same situation, have done in the same circumstances, right? Under similar circumstances. So here's what we have to look at. We don't have to do this from a hypothetical because there are other cops there with guns. And Keith Scott, and we're going to get to Terrence Crutcher, but just to show the parallel, to draw the parallel with respect to whether or not this shooting is reasonable, there were other officers there who didn't shoot, right? And so if we're going to use that standard, if we're going to use that test to determine whether or not one officer's action is reasonable, we look at the other officers to determine if what he did was reasonable and nobody else shot. The same is true for Officer Shelby in the Terrence Crutcher case. Nobody else shot. And that's one of the factors that you determine in whether or not it's an unreasonable shooting. Why were you the only one? Why were you the only one scared? And was your fear justifiable? Was it justified by the actions of the person you claim you were afraid of? Right? And so that's one of the things we have to look at. And I'm saying, if I'm looking at, there are 4, 5, 6 other police officers experiencing the exact same thing, but you're the only one that shoots, I'm thinking that your actions might be slightly unreasonable. It might be unreasonable. I think that lends itself to being unreasonable. All right. If you got a call, I keep hearing beeps. Okay. Listen, I can talk. So if y'all don't interrupt me, I'm just gonna keep going. Now, back to the gun being a plant. Well, we don't know that, but what we do know is that it's not uncommon for us to hear stories of police officers who carry what's called a throwaway, right? Some officers, and not all of them. And let me just say this: there are some really good cops out there, and there are some really bad cops out there, and there are a lot of them, and some of them carry throwaway firearms for the very purpose of planting those firearms on someone that they shoot, who might be unarmed, right? And I'm not suggesting that a police officer will wake up one day and say, I'm just gonna shoot somebody today. Let me carry this gun. I'm not suggesting that, but it's there for a purpose. Whether your intention when you woke up was to kill someone or not, if you ultimately do and then you cover it up, that's a crime. Now we saw that in 2 cases in the last week. One happened back in, I want to say 2011. They just released a video of this. The officer has been charged with 1st-degree murder. But there is some video of him after the shooting, after he shoots this unarmed man. He goes back to his patrol car, to the back seat of the patrol car, and inside the duffel bag, and retrieves an item. He retrieved something you can't see. And then all of a sudden, the person he shot has a gun. Okay. There's another story. This is Che Taylor, I believe. Let me make sure I'm getting this brother's name right. Because the last thing I want to do is jack up Che Taylor. Yes, that's the Seattle case. The brother in Seattle. The police shot and killed him and said that he had a firearm. And when they traced that firearm, it came back to a sheriff in Utah. Yeah, I don't know how that happens. I don't know how that happens because the reports are that the sheriff was saying, oh, it must be some case of mistaken identity. And then he was like, yeah, that's my gun. But my thing is, when you are missing a firearm, don't you report it stolen? Then you see, help me out here. What's the rules if you register a firearm and it's either stolen or lost? You just take the L. I can't find my gun.
You got to immediately report the weapons missing.
You have to report it, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. There was nothing in any of the articles that I read about this incident that indicated that this sheriff in Utah at any point reported his firearm stolen. If I missed it, I missed it. I didn't see it, but it's odd to me that it would end up in a car with a man who was shot by the police when his family says he didn't have a gun, right? And I know that's a narrative that a lot of other people on the other side like to say, y'all always say he ain't have a gun. Well, y'all always say he did. So, all right. So the other case was a white woman. There was a white woman police officer, and all of these stories are on my Facebook page. You can go back. Her name is Officer Sherry Hall. She's from Georgia. That's your town. I mean, he see, fuck is going on in Georgia? All right. She was fresh 3 months off the job. 3 months off the job, and somehow she got shot in the stomach. They won't say whether she shot herself, right? But she made a report that a black man, it's always a black man shot her, right? And it came out that there was no man, nobody shot her, that she either shot herself, which is probably likely what happened, or it was an accidental shooting, or she don't know what happened, but she made up a fictitious tale about a black man having shot her. And she also had a second firearm that was not issued by the police department, that the police department didn't know anything about. And she had a throwaway. Damn, you 3 months on the job and you already corrupt? But I think this is the officer who, no, that's the other one, Shelby. She came from a different fight club. But so it's not uncommon. It's uncommon to hear. It's uncommon for them to get caught, right? So when they do get caught, and we do catch a police officer, especially on video or something like that, planting evidence, it's the collective of us says, we've been saying this shit for years, and finally, what we've always known is being put in the forefront for everyone else to know too, right? Okay.
Also, she was charged with a felony too.
Yes, I think 4.
Before she was hired, and they cleared that felony so they can hire her as a police officer.
See now that's the shit that gets me. There are droves of people who are prohibited from certain types of employment because they have a felony conviction. Some of those people don't even receive the relief they seek when they get a certificate of relief of civil disabilities so that they can get some type of employment that they otherwise would be barred for. You certainly wouldn't be able to get a job in law enforcement. I don't give a fuck how many certificates you got. I don't give a fuck if Obama signed that shit himself. If you got a felony, you can't even get a security guard job. You go take that 3-hour class if you want to, or that 5-hour class, whatever they got in New York for you to become a security guard, and you send your little papers away so you get your little security license, and they send you a little letter back going, no. I'm not laughing at y'all. I'm just trying to let you know there are a lot of people out there who have families who are struggling to overcome the stigma that's attached to it and everything else that comes with it. But for some people, having a felony is no bar at all. You just want to be a cop. You want to be a cop. She's a good person. And there you are with a cop. And it's odd to me that they paused or stopped short of saying that she shot herself. Somebody shot her ass. I mean, either she shot herself. You don't just, bullets don't just walk out of guns. That's not how it happens. I mean, they didn't talk about ballistics. I didn't hear anything about the bullet, whether it matched the throwaway gun. You know, these are half-assed investigation, or if it's a good investigation, these are half-assed journalists who don't know what questions to ask. They're like, oh, that's what happened, and thank you. That's it. That's it. It's ridiculous. All right. Okay, so let's talk really quickly about all right, so one of the reasons that they in North Carolina said that they did not want to release the video is because it would compromise the investigation, right? And I know a lot of people was like, well, how could it compromise the investigation? It should just elucidate whatever confusion there is, right? Y'all like my rose quartz earrings? These are stones that are supposed to emanate love and help generate love. And we all need love. Y'all know I got ADHD, right? So I'll be talking about stuff and then I just break into something else. Anyway, okay, that's because, anyway, I told y'all my energy was low. I'm working on getting my energy up. We're going to talk about energy at the end. We're not going to talk about sex this time. We will talk about energy just very briefly. But so they don't want to release the video because it might compromise the investigation. And there is some credence to that. And let me tell you why. Because sometimes you might have an eyewitness who might have a memory of an event. But if they witness or view videos of that same event, then the memory that they have could be altered, it could be changed, it's tampered with, and so the police department, I guess they wanted to interview as many eyewitnesses as they could before the video was released so that they could get an authentic version of what the people actually remembered without that memory having been either supplemented or tainted by them having watched a video of that same event. Now, before the police released their video, there was one eyewitness who came on. This is the Black woman who, I mean, the power of suggestion is just bad. It's so bad. This is why people make terrible eyewitnesses. Her statements on camera before they released the video was that Mr. Scott exited his vehicle and he had his hands up. He had his hands up. She even demonstrated. She was like, and he was backing up, and he said, "What's the problem?" And he said a few other things and things of that nature. And we saw the video, and when he got out of the car, his hands were down. So that gives us pause, right? Because we have an eyewitness and we're giving credence to what she says she saw. And then we get the video, and it's kind of hard for us to homogenize. It's kind of hard for us to reconcile what you say you saw and what we say, what actually saw, what we saw in the video. And so then all her credibility is lost and out of the window. So nothing that she now says is viable, right? Nothing, because we don't know if her memory is good. Oh, sorry. I'm on to do not disturb. This is somebody in my favorites. Anyway, okay. So we have to be careful about the power of suggestion. So I do agree with them on one level when it comes to dealing with witnesses that may have witnessed an event. But when you're doing an investigation, you want to get to those witnesses as quickly as possible. You want to get to them before they start telling the story over and over again, because you know what happens when you start telling the story over and over again. You start to embellish. You start to add facts or take facts away. You don't mean to do it. It just happens. It's natural, right? So you want to, as an investigator, and I used to be an investigator, in a past life. No, I really was an investigator for the defense before I became a defense attorney. Before I was a prosecutor, I was an investigator for 3 years. And when you are trying to gather evidence and question people, you want to do it as soon as possible when the first opportunity presents itself, when the memory is freshest in their mind. That's when you want to talk to them. And so you should do that right away, and then you could release the videos because you already have their statements. And then you can compare what they told you to what the videos show, and you can determine whether or not you think that they're a credible witness or an incredible witness. Okay, so I get their point, but just so you all know, there is some rhyme or reason to them not wanting to release the video. Okay, let's talk about, well, before we move on, anything else you guys want to talk about with Keith Scott? Just want to go back, and North Carolina is an open carry state. We know that he's a felon. He is not the law, the federal law, which governs all the states, does not allow a felon to have a firearm. Okay, so he was in. If he had a gun, he was unlawfully in possession of that gun. But you know what? Even if he was unlawfully in possession of a firearm, last time I checked, the penalty for that was not death. And that's all I'm gonna say about that. All right. Then he's seeing Heather, and y'all want to say anything about Keith Scott?
No, you covered
Question? Anybody? Nobody? No questions? That's fine. I know y'all got questions. Y'all asking me questions all the time.
I was gonna say, even if he did have a gun and he was a felon, he's not allowed to carry the gun. That has nothing to do with it, because they would not have known of that until after the fact. So that you cannot use that.
Right, but that's that classic bootstrapping that they do, right? It's the classic bootstrapping after the fact, when, you know, it's one of those distraction things. Don't look here where the issue is. Look way over here, right? Look over here. He's a felon, right? Did he have that shit on his forehead? Was his license plates customized felon or us? Like, no way you can know that a person has a felony or any type of criminal history just by looking at them. I'm sorry, you just can't. You can't judge a book by its cover. You just can't. You know, people don't think I'm a lawyer, but I am. You know, they just don't. I don't know if it's because I'm a woman, it's because I'm black, whatever the reasons are. But you know, it happens. It happens all the time, and you can't judge a book by the cover. All right, so let's move on. But that's a great point, Easy. Yes, officer. Let's talk about Officer Shelby. Officer Shelby is facing 4 felony counts. She is the police officer that shot Terrence Crutcher in Tulsa, Oklahoma. I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you have been under a rock, Terrence Crutcher was driving a SUV type vehicle that experienced some sort of malfunction, and it was in the middle of the road, and there were passersby, 911 people who were passing by who called 911 to report that it was a vehicle in the road, and the doors were open, the car was on, and that there was a man who, I believe one of the callers said that he was walking away from the vehicle or something to that effect. Okay, so the police officers, who again were on their way someplace else, respond to this and kill Terrence Crutcher. This is the only way. There's no explanation when you watch that video for the acts that took place. From the research that I've done and the articles that I've read, the vehicle had already been searched from the passenger side, right? The vehicle had already been searched from the passenger side. Then Mr. Crutcher was walking with his hands up. His hands were visibly up. They were up. You could see them from the fucking sky, okay? Because there was a helicopter in the air, and you hear the helicopter giving the blow by blow. And you know, one of the things, the really bad dude comment, we'll talk about that in a second, but one of the things that he did say is that he has his hands up now. Oh, he's complying now. As he walked back to his vehicle, he put his hands up on the vehicle. The window looks and appears to be up. The police officer's initial statement was that she shot him because she thought he was going to go reach into the vehicle for a weapon. So she shot him. However, the problem with that is that there was an officer who had already tased him. He had been tased first, right? So when you see his hands up, right, then you see one hand go down. And from what I'm watching, based on my training and experience, because that's what the fuck cops always say, I'm watching it, and I see a person responding to stimuli, electric stimuli, right? You shock him, and he goes down, and he responds, and then you shoot him, and he falls down to the ground. So he was already tased before you shot him. You did not see a weapon, and no other, again, back to that reasonable police officer standard, what was in her subjective mind at the time, no other police officer had the same level of fear that you had, because they did not shoot. No one else shot. No one else shot Terrence Crutcher. You were the only one. You let off one shot. She shot one time, and killed him. One time. She was charged with manslaughter in the first degree. Now, my disclaimer is I am not a lawyer in Oklahoma. I don't know the law in Oklahoma, but I looked it up. Only so that we could talk about it, right? So she was charged with the section in the manslaughter statute that applies to heat of passion, right? Heat of passion. And typically, when we hear a heat of passion case, we think your typical husband who comes home and finds his slutty wife with the neighbor or the mailman or the dog walker or whatever, right? And so it's then he shoots him, or maybe he shoots everyone, right? And so it's that person that is under the duress of an event, right? That it diminishes their capacity, right, to form the requisite intent to kill, right? So, because manslaughter, basically, in and of itself, the charge says that you did not intend to kill the person. So let me just go over it a little bit, right? Because manslaughter and murder, the result is that someone is dead for both, right? But how that person got dead is what separates manslaughter from murder, right? So let's talk about murder. Murder requires intent, requires that it was your goal, right? It was your it was your conscious objective. I'm trying to use the language from the law, but at the same time, speak plainly so that you understand. It was your conscious objective that at the end of the day, that's what you meant to happen. You meant to do that shit, right? You meant for him to die, and so you killed him. However you killed him, right? Shoot, stab, suffocation, drown. I know I should write some crazy books because I got a terrible mind. And anyway, right? So it doesn't matter how the manner of death. When you intend it, it's your intent, right? So there's different levels of murder, though. Okay, because it could be that you premeditated it. That's first degree murder. When you you know what, I'm gonna kill him. You do some research on the internet. You go to Home Depot. You get your rope and your tape, whatever, right? You plan it out. That's premeditated. That's different from that if you were with your woman and you're walking down the block and some guys try to attack you and you kill one of them. You don't necessarily, didn't plan. You didn't know they was going to do that. You didn't plan to kill the person. So it's not a plan. It's not a laying in wait type of thing. So that's not first degree murder, right? It could be second degree murder. That could be manslaughter too. But we know, I just want to get you the distinction. It's all about the intention, right? So manslaughter is when you intend to hurt someone and they die, right? So I might have a problem with you and we get into a fight and you're hurting me and I want to hurt you back. It's my intention to hurt you. It's not my intention to kill you though. Because we could be friends and I just might want to fuck you up today. You know what I'm saying? Because I don't know. Shit happens. Not me per se. I'm a lady. I'm talking about how shit goes in life, in the streets or whatever may have you. And you might not want to kill him. Y'all gonna be friends tomorrow. But you punch him and he falls and hits his head on the sidewalk. And he dies. That's manslaughter, okay? Because you didn't intend to cause his death, but because you intended to cause him injury, you intended to cause him harm, and that harm resulted in his death, you're responsible, okay? Even though you didn't intend it. So for Officer Shelby, we know she didn't. We don't know shit. Let me take that back. But according credited the charges, we can assume that the prosecutors don't believe that she intended to kill him, right? But that she intended to either hurt him so that he didn't hurt her, and as a result of those actions, he died. And whether or not she was justified in doing so takes us all the way back to reasonable standard. And because she was the only one who shot that man, and there were other police officers there who were similarly situated, who was experienced the same level of duress, and they did not fire their weapons, it could be determined that her firing her weapon was unreasonable, and that's why she's going to stand charges. But let me just pause real quick, because we've seen this before. I always tell you guys, manage your expectations, right? Because we've seen this movie. We saw this movie in Brooklyn with Ikie Gurley and the Asian officer who shot him. I don't even remember his name, and I don't even care. He was charged with manslaughter, right? And I had a couple of police officers on my page who made the distinction between Officer Shelby and the officer who shot Ikie Gurley, because his bullet hit a wall that ricocheted off. His bullet hit a wall, ricocheted off the wall, and hit Ikie Gurley. Kind of a different manslaughter deal, right? And so it's probably not the same level. She's charged with first degree. He ultimately was convicted of a manslaughter that was reduced. It was reduced, and he ultimately got probation. So, manage your expectations, because it's very possible that while she is charged, and she probably will be indicted, and she probably will go to trial, and she probably will have a bench trial, she probably will get a judge who probably will find her not guilty, or she'll get a judge who will probably find her guilty, but who will probably give her probation. And you can come back to this video next year when shit happens. Yep. Okay. Let's see, what else? We talked about that. All right. So one of the things that I was, I'm always thinking of solutions, and how do we move forward, and how do we keep this from happening again and again and again and again. And, we talk ad nauseum about it, but there's no real substantive changes happening. And there was one of my Facebook followers said a while ago, it said to me, they should have the same policies as the military. And I was like, no, that's crazy. What you mean? I'm supposed to wait for somebody to shoot me before I shoot them? And so, sometimes, all of us, we have to step back from our positions and reevaluate. And I did that. And I think I'm changing my position. I'm not sure yet, but I've been doing some research on rules of engagement, and I want to tell you about a couple of cases and get this conversation going, because I think it's time for us to move for a federal, meaning that it applies to all the states. There are federal rules of engagement for police officers in the United States, just like there are federal rules of engagement for military personnel. The same should be true. Whether the rules of engagement are in effect, from what I'm reading, whether we are in active war or not. The rules of engagement are in effect. So they can be applicable here. Now, I'm not an expert, I'm not a military expert, so I could be wrong, but this is something that we need to discuss. All right, so some of the things for military rules of engagement, right? It limits the rights of a person to take certain action. It says you have the right to use force to defend yourself against attacks or threats of attack. Hostile fire may be returned effectively and promptly to stop a hostile act. Hostile fire may be returned. Okay, this is very important, because what that says is you just can't be shooting at people you think got a gun. You can only fire at people who fire at you. So if we just stop at A and B, and we just look at the couple of cases that we had, there would be no shootings. There would be no shootings at all for us to even fucking talk about, because none of these people shot at the cops, and they would not have been able to shoot at them just because they thought they had a gun. And I've even pulled up a case where there was a military man who thought this guy was going to take his gun, and he shot him. I'm gonna tell you what happened to him. It's on my page if you didn't already read it, but it's on my page. But we're going to talk about that. But so let me get back to the rules of engagement. So the hostile fire can be returned effectively and promptly to stop a hostile act. C, when U.S. forces are attacked by unarmed hostile elements, mobs, and or rioters, U.S. forces should use the minimum force necessary under the circumstances and proportional to the threat. When U.S. forces, right, because in case you didn't get that, right, when you are being attacked, when military personnel are being attacked by unarmed hostile elements, mobs, and or riots, they must use minimal force, and whatever force they use has to be proportioned to the threat. That should be a federal standard in every state, in every city, and in every town. Every police officer and every peace officer that has a firearm needs to follow the military rules of engagement. D, you may not seize the property of others to accomplish your mission. E, detention of civilians is authorized for security reasons or in self-defense. That's already the case, right? That's already the case here. The police officers can detain you if they fear for their safety. They can search you if they fear for their safety, right? They should not be able to shoot you just because they fear for their safety, especially when most of the time that fear is born. It's born out of some unreal, an imaginary fear, is thought process about people you know nothing about people you don't engage at all. That's a problem for me. Okay, but see, I was doing homework, y'all. It's important. So I posted a National Review article. All of this stuff is on my page. You can go back, which details the rules of engagement. And in fact, this particular article was criticizing the rules of engagement, saying that it's too restrictive, it's too prohibitive, and in fact, it's getting military members killed. And in that, it recounted a story of a military personnel having to go through the rules of engagement. And in this particular case, when you want to shoot at someone in the military, as recounted in this story, you have to get clearance from a higher up, right? Whoever's above you. They then have to call the JAG lawyer, who is on call 24 hours. Not the same person, I'm sure. It's more, a lot of them. But anyway, they got to call and get authority from the JAG lawyer to use deadly force. The article also recounted that very seldom do the military commanders defy what the JAG orders. It's not an order, but not order. What the JAG lawyers, it's more of a I don't know. I don't want to call it suggestion. It's a little stronger than that, but it's not an order. So they can disobey it if they want. The problem is, though, if they disobey it and the shit goes south, somebody's getting court-martialed. Somebody's going to jail, right? In the case of the National Review, they did all of those steps. And the JAG person was like, nah, no, you can't be shooting on that car. Don't shoot that car. Don't shoot that car. And so they didn't shoot the car. They followed the car. They pursued the car, and they stopped the car. They caught the car. And some people got out of the car, and one of the people that was in the car had a bomb vest on, detonated the bomb, and killed one of our U.S. servicemen. That's tragic. Tragic. And I'm not suggesting that the military doesn't need to re-evaluate whether or not the rules of engagement are effective over there. I'm talking about whether or not they can be effective here. Nahisi, do you think that the rules of engagement can be effective here?
I say it can be, but I don't think that it's possible. I don't think that they would pass it like that.
They went past the federal law.
I could be wrong. It can happen, but I'm just saying I just don't see it happening.
All right. Well, listen, we have to, I think it's important for us to put as many solutions out there, that are possible, whether they seem untenable or not. Because I think that that's part of the problem, is that we just don't have any solutions, and we keep hearing about these shootings and seeing these shootings, and over and over again. They're on a continuous loop. They get embedded in our minds, our hearts, and our spirits in it. And it seems like every time we have a shooting, it takes me just a little bit longer to recover. Every time it takes just a little bit longer. I got to go off the grid just a little bit longer than I did the last time, so that I can, deal with what I'm feeling and on all of that. So it's just something has to give. All right. So to speak to what's giving, have you all heard about the shutdown tomorrow? Who's shutting down? I hope these people don't tell me that there was no chat, because I cannot believe nobody is chatting in this. I can't. And
No, the
nobody
chat is
called.
open.
The chat. I know the chat is open, but that's crazy. That's really, really weird. Hold on, y'all. I'm gonna check something out right now. All right. So tomorrow is September 26th. There are a lot of posts going around encouraging people to stay home today. And in essence, what I believe the movement is about is trying to demonstrate for America, for all of America, that our presence is important, that we need to be appreciated, respected, not just tolerated. We need to be acknowledged. And if you don't do those things with our presence, then you will feel the wrath of our absence. And so I'm encouraging all of you all to take this step and stay home. Stay home tomorrow. Stay home from work. Let this country see what it looks like, for there to be a real blackout. It's time for us to come together and do big things, that are going to have lasting impacts, are going to get the attention of people, and going to really say, if we don't do some shit, our pockets are going to hurt, because that's the only goddamn thing they care about. I'm telling you, it's the only thing they care about. And if we don't start understanding that and fighting that way, we're going to lose every time. We're going to lose every time. Okay? It is 9:48. I got a couple more things I want to talk to you about. All right, New York terror attacks. I'm gonna talk about that for 2 seconds, because you know how I feel about whenever there is unrest, and there is a sense that the chasm, the divide amongst the races is opening and growing. There's always something that happens that transcends race, so that we can come together as a people, right? And I talked about 9/11 before, and the sentiment that was in the air at the time, right? Everybody was an American. Everybody was a New Yorker. We were in this together. There was a foreign invasion, and those people over there did something to us over here. And, at that us was all of us at that time. And so I'm of the mind that this government will do some shit to engender that very same feeling and spirit, just so that, you could step out of your pain and your passion for a minute. So, if it happens, don't be surprised. I just hope that none of us are out there. So there are other boycott movements that are coming down the line. We are getting prepared for seasons that make a lot of money for corporate America, especially that bullshit Christmas. Y'all gotta stop with that shit. Start now. Start stopping now. Start stopping now. Like, tell your kid, listen, we're gonna do Christmas different. If you celebrate Christmas, don't make it be about money. Right? Don't make it be about money. Don't spend no money. If you want to make me a Christmas, write me some shit. I always tell my kids, write me a story. Tell me about the best day you ever had. Tell me about get your kids to be creative. Ask them to write about what they imagine their future would be like. Get them to think about being producers and not consumers. Stop asking them what the fuck they want to be when they grow up. Stop asking them that stupid shit. Stop. That's not going to help them develop their gifts. That's not. They can't think like that. When you ask my 13-year-old son that, We went to a barbecue and somebody asked him that. Well, he gonna be 13 in November. But somebody asked him, what you want to do when you grow up? He was like, I'm 12. I'm 12. It's some of you grown motherfuckers who still don't know what y'all want to be when y'all grow up. Y'all expect the kids to know. Stop telling them that their only path to success is to go to college, go into a lot of debt, get a job working for somebody else, and then buy a house that you don't never fucking own. That's not what we should be teaching our kids. That's what we did, because that was the dream they sold us. I did that shit, put all this shit on the wall. See all that shit on the wall? Yeah, I got the debt to go with it. You know, and I tell my kids, you know, you want to go to college, you go to college. You don't want to go to college, I'm not going to force you to go to college. You know what's going to happen when you go to college? They give you a degree because you have a good fucking memory. That's what you go to college for, because you have the gift of recitation. College is it's not about independent thought or critical thought, unless you're in some type of thematic studies program, which they don't really push too often. But typically, if you can give a teacher back what he gave you, you got an A. That doesn't require anything, right? Doesn't require anything, and you're not going to create a producer. You are going to create a bunch of consumers that are going to work for other people. That's not what we want. We need to teach our kids to start thinking bigger. Think about what kind of company you can create. You like video games? My son, you better code every goddamn day. You want to play video games? You better tell me how they created that video game. You want me to pay for a $400 PlayStation so you can play? You better tell me how they created this game. I want to see how this is going to benefit you in the future, right? Make them work for it. Stop selling them dreams that aren't ours. Selling them things that are not going to help them be better people. Okay, we've got to do something different. All right. Okay. And lastly, all right, we got 8 minutes. 8 minutes. I think we filled this up. I'm saying we, but y'all ain't saying nothing. No. All right. Energy. Lastly, energy. Please be responsible for yours. Please be responsible for the energy that you put out to the universe. What you talking about, Ikie? What do you mean by that? Let me give you a couple of examples. You all know that I'm a former prosecutor. I don't hide that. Yes, I sent people to jail. Yes, I sent Black people to jail. Yes, I went to trial and convicted Black people. Yes. If that makes me, in your opinion, some sort of social pariah or agent, then that's fine. You're entitled to that. But that's not going to stop me from being who I am, and it's not going to stop me from talking to people about what I know. It's just not. So be responsible with your energy. If you come onto my page or you come onto my YouTube channel and you want to spew negativity like that, because there's no place for that. I'm not going to have it. If you come for me, I'm coming for you. Understand that. I'm coming back for you. I'm not taking no slights of the hand. It's not working. Okay? That's not. Don't let the fucking degrees fool you. You come for me, I'm coming for you. Feel me? Be responsible for your energy. Like when I come home, I got 2 dogs. They are always at the door. I could have had the worst day. They don't care. They're just happy to see me. When my son comes home from school, I give him that same energy. I want him to know I missed him. I'm like, oh, what's up, man? How was your day? I missed you. What'd you do today? What'd you have for lunch? I'm responsible with my energy because I know it's important for him to feel valued, right? So be responsible with your energy. If you don't agree with something on Facebook that somebody posted, here's a novel thought. Scroll past that shit. Duh. Like, do you really need to go comment on a motherfucker? You want to, for what? Because you disagree? Because you think it's wrong? Because we've been over this before, and I told you that wrong is only that which you disagree with, right? So that subjective standard doesn't really exist. It's just a figment of your imagination, right? Because then it's just ridiculous. All right, so just scroll past it. Be responsible with your energy, and understand that if you think about it this way, what you put out is coming back to you. Think about that. Would that make a difference? Does it make a difference to you? Because it makes a difference to me. I know If I am having negative energy, if somebody's around me that has negative energy, and I'm like, oh, if I'm giving that out, which I seldom do, but if I get it, I might give it back. I know that that's going to be a horrible situation for me, right? And so I don't want to put myself in those situations where there might be negative energy, and you should do the same thing. Don't go to places where there's going to be negative energy. Now, let me just give a disclaimer, because I'm one of those people who I have to post some of the videos that we don't want to see. I have to post them because I have to talk about them. I have to make them make sense if I can. I have to give the perspective on the law if I can, because that's what I'm here for. That's what I charge myself with doing, so that we don't engage in conversation not knowing what we're talking about, and we can we can be educated on the law as it relates to all of these different issues. Okay, so please, fam, be responsible with your energy. If you see something on Facebook that you don't agree with, just scroll past it. Now, there's a difference though. Now, if you see something that's just wrong, right? Like that video of the cop raping the girl and it was the NYPD cop, like that's just wrong, right? Not wrong because I disagree with it, wrong because factually that shit happened in South Carolina. I mean, in South Africa. It happened in South Africa. And then I heard that officer was a former NYPD, but even whatever the case was, it wasn't in New York and it wasn't an NYPD officer. So I'm going to speak out on that because I don't want my people going around misinformed. Because if information is power, misinformation is equally powerful, right? So we all have a duty and a responsibility to make sure that the information that is going out is factual. And that's different from whether or not you agree or disagree with somebody's opinion about a fact. That's different, right? So that wasn't true. There was another one that wasn't true. Y'all remember which one that was? Because I spoke on that one too. It was one of them satire sites. It was the one satire site. Nahisi, it was Atlanta, and it was saying that a woman was breastfeeding at the bus stop. And that the cop was like, you can't breastfeed here, and she got up and exposed her breast, and as she was going to get on the bus, he grabbed her and the baby fell, and she first of all, you should know this shit is satire because it's got too many fucking details. Okay? These journalists, the woman got shot breastfeeding. That would be the whole fucking story. This damn 2 minutes and a witness said that get out of here. These journalists they don't interview witnesses and nothing. They interviewed one witness who is inarticulate and can't say anything. So, do your homework. It don't take 2 seconds for you to take the name out of the story and go Google it and see if there is news that can confirm or corroborate the story you about to share. You have a responsibility too here, all of us, right? And it's just as dangerous for you to share misinformation as it is for you not to share information. Okay, so be vigilant about that because people are responding to shit like this. People are emotional, and the last thing I want is someone to respond emotionally to a fake fucking news story that you shared. That's not cool. It's not cool. Okay, 9:59. We filled it up. All right, I think we talked about everything that I wanted to talk about today, but that I wanted to. They didn't want to talk about anything else. If y'all want to talk about time is now, did I leave anything out? Heather, Nahisi?
No, you did not.
Well, I thank y'all for being on. Nahisi, I didn't hear from you.
I said no.
Okay. Well, I thank y'all for being on with me today. I thank all of you all who tuned in to view. I hope you all share the video. I'm sure we're gonna try to clean it up. Maybe we won't. It's not that serious. But I thank you. I love you. I really do. Ikie Speaks. Thank you for joining us. And hopefully we don't have to keep talking about these same situations over and over again. All right. Be well. Be mindful of your energy. And be safe out there, y'all. I love you. I really do. Peace.